The bell above the door of Maison Etoile chimed delicately as Maya Davis stepped inside, the soft echo a stark contrast to the energy buzzing through Manhattan streets. The store was every bit as opulent as its reputation promised. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, casting glimmering patterns onto polished marble floors, while racks of meticulously arranged designer clothing stood like museum exhibits. Maya's gaze swept the room, her eyes reflecting a mix of quiet anticipation and apprehension. She adjusted the strap of her simple leather bag and took a deep breath. Today was important. In just a few hours, she'd stand before a crowd of philanthropists, artists, and media at a gala where she'd announce a groundbreaking initiative funded by her foundation. The right outfit wasn't just about appearance. It was part of her message, a subtle statement of grace and power. The first 5 minutes passed in relative peace. Maya roamed the store, her fingers brushing the fabrics of elegant evening gowns, sharp suits, and accessories that seemed more like sculptures than practical items. But it didn't take long for the atmosphere to shift. "Excuse me, miss," came a clipped, impatient voice. Maya turned to see a tall woman in her mid-30s, impeccably dressed in a pencil skirt and silk blouse, her blonde hair pulled back into a tight bun. The woman's name tag read Lisa Carter. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Are you looking for something specific?" Maya returned the smile, keeping her tone polite. "Yes, actually. I'm attending a gala tonight, and was hoping to find something elegant for the occasion." Lisa's eyes flicked over Maya's plain blouse and jeans, her expression faltering for just a moment before she recovered. "Of course. This section might be a little upscale, but we do have a sale rack in the back." Maya froze for a second, then tilted her head. "The sale rack? I'm not sure that's necessary. I'd like to look around here first." Lisa's smile tightened. "Well, it's just that this collection features some of our more exclusive pieces. They're priced accordingly." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as if daring Maya to press the issue. Maya inhaled deeply, steadying herself. "I'm aware of that," she replied, her tone calm but firm. Lisa hesitated, then gave a non-committal shrug. "If you say so." She stepped back, her heels clicking against the floor as she retreated toward the register, muttering something under her breath. As Maya resumed browsing, she felt the weight of Lisa's gaze following her. The sense of being watched was suffocating. Another employee joined Lisa at the counter, a young man with sharp features and an eager demeanor. Maya caught snippets of their conversation as she moved closer to a display of gowns. "Is she serious?" Lisa whispered, not bothering to hide the disdain in her voice. "I mean, look at her. She's clearly in the wrong place." The man chuckled nervously. "Maybe she's just curious? People like her probably don't see clothes like this every day." Maya's chest tightened, but she kept her head high. Years of dealing with microaggressions and outright discrimination had taught her the art of composure, but today it felt heavier than usual. As she selected a stunning emerald green gown from the rack, Lisa appeared beside her again, her presence sharp and unwelcome. "That piece is from the Stephen Rowland collection," Lisa said, her voice oozing condescension. "It's one of our most expensive items. Perhaps something less extravagant would be a better fit." Maya turned to face her fully, meeting Lisa's gaze with quiet intensity. "Do you work on commission, Ms. Carter?" Lisa blinked, momentarily thrown off. "Yes." "Then I suggest you let me decide what I can or cannot afford," Maya replied, her voice cool but unyielding. For a moment, the air between them seemed to crackle. Lisa's jaw tightened, but she stepped away, clearly bristling at the rebuke. Maya exhaled, her grip on the dress firm as she made her way to the fitting rooms. But the humiliation wasn't over. When Maya emerged from the dressing room, the gown hugging her figure perfectly, Lisa was waiting nearby, arms crossed. A couple of other shoppers had gathered at a distance, their curious gazes only adding to the tension. "It's nice," Lisa said, her tone implying the opposite. "But I have to ask, are you planning to pay with cash, or do you have a card?" The room seemed to grow quieter, the buzz of conversation dwindling as people's attention turned to the exchange. Maya felt a flush of heat rise in her cheeks. "I have a card," she said evenly. Lisa raised a brow, her expression skeptical. I'll need to see it before we finalize anything. Store policy, you understand. Maya stared at her, the sting of the moment cutting deeper than she expected. It wasn't about the dress or the money. It was the assumption, the layers of judgment stacked on top of one another. I wasn't aware Maison Etoile had a policy of checking payment methods before a sale is made, Maya said, her voice laced with steel. It's just precautionary, Lisa replied, her saccharine smile reappearing. These items are quite valuable. The other customers whispered among themselves, some looking uncomfortable, others seeming to enjoy the spectacle. Maya set the dress aside, her movements deliberate. You know, she began, her voice calm but cutting. I think I've seen enough. She turned toward the door, her footsteps measured, her chin held high. The weight of the moment threatened to crush her, but she refused to give Lisa or anyone else the satisfaction of seeing her falter. And then, just as her hand touched the door, it swung open from the other side. Maya! The voice was warm and familiar, rich with charisma. Tyler Morgan stepped into the store, his broad smile lighting up the room. The famous actor and longtime friend of Maya's looked every bit the part of a Hollywood star, his tailored coat and effortless charm commanding attention. Tyler, Maya said, her tone softening despite herself. Tyler took one look at her and then at the room, his sharp instincts immediately picking up on the tension. His smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of concern. What's going on here? Lisa's demeanor shifted in an instant. Her posture straightened, and her voice became syrupy sweet. Mr. Morgan, what a surprise. We didn't know you'd be stopping by. He ignored her, his attention focused on Maya. Are you okay? I'm fine, she said quietly. Tyler's gaze swept over Lisa and the other employees, the weight of his disapproval palpable. What happened? Before Maya could respond, Lisa jumped in, her tone defensive. There was a misunderstanding. Nothing serious. Is that so? Tyler said, his voice dangerously calm. He turned to Maya, his expression softening. Because it doesn't look like nothing. Maya hesitated, then shook her head. Let's go, Tyler. It's not worth it. But Tyler wasn't ready to let it go. Actually, it is, he said, his voice carrying the kind of authority that silenced the room. Do you have any idea who this woman is? Lisa blinked, clearly thrown off by the question. She's a customer? Tyler let out a sharp laugh, the sound cutting through the room like glass. This is Maya Davis, internationally renowned artist, philanthropist, the guest of honor at tonight's gala. Lisa's face went pale, her mouth opening and closing as she struggled to form a response. The room erupted in murmurs, the realization dawning on the other customers as well. Maya looked at Tyler, her expression a mix of gratitude and exhaustion. Let's just go, she said softly. Tyler nodded, placing a protective hand on her back as they exited the store, leaving Lisa and the others in stunned silence. The quiet outside the store felt stark compared to the tense atmosphere Maya had just left behind. The air in Manhattan, bustling with life, usually calmed her, but now it only accentuated her frustration. She walked briskly, her heels clicking against the sidewalk, but Tyler easily kept up, his long strides matching her pace. Maya, Tyler called gently. I don't want to talk about it, she replied, not stopping. Well, that's too bad because I think we need to. His tone wasn't harsh, but it carried the weight of someone who refused to let her brush off the incident. She stopped abruptly, turning to face him. Her expression was tight, a storm brewing just beneath the surface. What would you like me to say, Tyler? That it hurt. That it's exhausting to be seen as less than I am every time I step into spaces like that? Her voice cracked slightly, betraying the depth of her emotions. Tyler's face softened, his brows furrowing in concern. You don't have to say anything, but you also don't have to carry this alone. Maya shook her head, her laugh bitter. It's not like this is new for me. This happens all the time. And do you know the worst part? I was stupid enough to hope that today, of all days, it might be different. Why today? He asked, his voice quiet. Because tonight, I'm standing on a stage in front of some of the most powerful people in the country, talking about justice and equality, she said, her voice rising with each word. And here I am, Being treated like I don't belong in a store that sells clothes I could buy 10 times over? Tyler let out a deep breath. You're right. It's infuriating. But Maya, you have every right to be angry, and you don't have to hide it. She crossed her arms, her shoulders slumping slightly. What's the point? I made it through that mess, didn't I? Let's just move on. Before Tyler could respond, a voice called out behind them. Excuse me, Miss Davis. They turned to see a woman hurrying toward them, her expression fraught with worry. It was one of the customers from the store, a middle-aged woman with an elegant coat draped over her shoulders. Miss Davis, she said, slightly out of breath. I just wanted to say, I'm so sorry for what happened in there. Maya blinked, caught off guard by the woman's sudden apology. I was there, the woman continued, wringing her hands. I saw everything, and I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to do. But it was wrong, the way that woman treated you. It was disgusting. Maya's initial reaction was to brush it off, but something about the woman's sincerity made her pause. I appreciate you saying that, Maya said finally. The woman nodded, her cheeks flushing slightly. If it's worth anything, I'm going to file a complaint with the store. That kind of behavior shouldn't go unchecked. Thank you, Maya said, her tone softer now. The woman hesitated for a moment before offering a small smile and stepping away, leaving Maya and Tyler standing alone again. Well, that was unexpected, Tyler remarked. It doesn't change anything, Maya said, though her voice lacked the same edge it had moments ago. Maybe not, Tyler replied. But it's a start. Maya sighed, rubbing her temples. I still need a dress for tonight. And honestly, the thought of going into another store right now makes me want to scream. Tyler grinned, his charm slipping back into place. Lucky for you, I have a solution. Come on. Maya raised an eyebrow. Where are we going? To my friend Olivia's studio, he said, already hailing a cab. She's a designer, one of the best. And trust me, her pieces will blow anything in that store out of the water. Reluctantly, Maya followed him into the cab. Olivia's studio was a stark contrast to Maison Etoile. The loft space was flooded with natural light, racks of vibrant fabrics and half-finished garments scattered throughout. Olivia herself was a whirlwind of energy, a petite woman with cropped silver hair and a bohemian flair. Maya Davis in my studio? Olivia exclaimed, clasping her hands dramatically. Tyler, you didn't tell me you were bringing royalty. Maya couldn't help but laugh, the tension in her chest loosening slightly. I wouldn't go that far. Nonsense, Olivia said, waving her off. You're an icon. Now, tell me everything. What's the occasion? Tyler chimed in, explaining the gala while Maya filled in the gaps. Olivia listened intently, her sharp eyes glinting with interest. And you were mistreated at that ridiculous store? Olivia asked, her tone dripping with disdain. Typical. But you're here now, darling, and we're going to make magic. Before Maya could protest, Olivia was already rifling through racks of gowns, pulling out fabrics and swatches with an artist's precision. This, Olivia said, holding up a sleek black gown with intricate beading along the neckline. Timeless, elegant, powerful. It's you? Maya stepped into the gown, and as Olivia fastened the back, she caught her reflection in the mirror. The dress fit like a second skin, accentuating her strength and grace. I don't know what to say, Maya murmured. You don't have to say anything, Olivia said, stepping back to admire her work. The dress will speak for you. Tyler, lounging on a nearby sofa, gave an approving nod. I think we're ready for tonight. Maya met his gaze in the mirror, a flicker of determination returning to her eyes. I think we are. Later that evening, as the black car pulled up to the gala venue, Maya felt a familiar blend of nerves and resolve. The grand hall was already buzzing with guests, the hum of conversation and clinking glasses filling the air. As she stepped onto the red carpet, cameras flashed, reporters shouting her name. Tyler walked beside her, a steady presence in the chaos. But as they approached the entrance, Maya caught sight of something, or someone, that stopped her in her tracks. Lisa Carter, the saleswoman from Maison Etoile, stood near the doorway, her face pale as she locked eyes with Maya. Maya's stomach churned, but she squared her shoulders, her expression calm and unreadable. Tyler noticed her hesitation. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Fine," Maya said, her voice steady. "Let's go." As they walked past Lisa, Maya couldn't help but notice the woman's obvious discomfort. It was clear Lisa recognized her, but there was no time for confrontation. Not yet. Maya stepped into the grand hall, the spotlight waiting for her. Tonight wasn't just about the gala. It was about something much bigger. The grand hall of the gala shimmered with opulence. Crystal chandeliers cascaded light over the crowd, and the polished marble floors reflected the elegance of the room. Guests mingled in designer attire, their laughter and conversation blending into a low hum of sophistication. For most attendees, this event was another notch on their social calendar, but for Maya, it was more. It was a platform, a chance to amplify the causes that fueled her art and activism. Maya moved through the crowd with practiced grace, exchanging polite greetings and soft smiles, but her mind was elsewhere. The memory of Lisa Carter's pale face at the entrance lingered, like an unfinished sentence. Why was she here? Was it a coincidence? Or had Lisa followed her after the incident at the store? Tyler stayed close by, his presence a reassuring anchor in the swirling sea of socialites. As they stopped to chat with a small group of influential donors, Maya spotted Lisa again, this time standing near the bar, her gaze darting nervously around the room. "Maya," Tyler said softly, breaking her focus. "Are you okay?" She nodded, forcing a smile. "I'm fine. Just keeping my energy up." Tyler didn't push further, but his brow furrowed slightly. He knew her well enough to sense when something was off. The evening unfolded smoothly at first. Maya gave a brief speech early in the program, a warm introduction to her upcoming announcement later in the night. The crowd applauded enthusiastically, and for a moment, the weight of the day eased. But as the dinner service began and guests settled into their seats, Maya noticed Lisa approaching her table. Lisa's steps were hesitant, her expression uneasy. She clutched a champagne flute as if it were a lifeline. When she finally stopped a few feet from Maya, the awkward tension between them was palpable. "Maya," Lisa began, her voice barely audible over the chatter of the room. Maya set her fork down deliberately, tilting her head. "Ms. Carter, I didn't expect to see you here." Lisa winced at the formality, glancing nervously at the other guests at the table. Tyler, seated beside Maya, crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. I'm here as a guest of one of the sponsors," Lisa stammered. "I didn't realize you would be attending." "Really?" Maya's voice was calm, but the edge was unmistakable. "Considering the conversation we had earlier today, I find that hard to believe." Lisa's cheeks flushed, and she took a step closer, lowering her voice. "Look, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what happened at the store. I wasn't myself." Maya raised an eyebrow. "You weren't yourself? Or were you exactly yourself?" The words hung heavy between them, and Lisa flinched as if they were a physical blow. Tyler leaned forward slightly, but Maya placed a hand on his arm, signaling for him to let her handle it. "I made a mistake," Lisa continued, her voice trembling now. "I judged you unfairly, and it was wrong. I know it doesn't excuse anything, but I wanted to tell you in person." Maya studied her, the flurry of emotions within her carefully hidden behind a composed exterior. Lisa's apology felt genuine, but Maya had heard hollow words of regret before. "You humiliated me, Ms. Carter," Maya said, her voice steady but firm. "In front of strangers. You assumed I didn't belong because of how I look." Lisa's eyes filled with tears, and she nodded quickly. I know, and She glanced around the room, her voice dropping further. "If you want to report me, I'll understand. But please believe me when I say I'm trying to do better." Today was a wake-up call. Maya stared at her for a long moment before responding. "You're right, it was a wake-up call, but not just for you." Lisa blinked, her brow furrowing in confusion. Before Maya could explain, the evening's host announced the main event, Maya's keynote speech. The room erupted into applause, and Tyler gave her a small, encouraging nod. Lisa stepped back quickly, fading into the background as Maya rose to her feet. The stage was lit with a golden glow, the audience's eyes fixed on Maya as she approached the microphone. She adjusted the hem of her dress, the fabric flowing elegantly around her, and took a deep breath. "Good evening," she began, her voice clear and steady. "It's an honor to be here tonight, surrounded by so many people dedicated to making the world a better place. Art has always been my way of speaking truth to power, of shining a light on the inequities that too often go ignored. Tonight, I'd like to share a story that happened just hours ago, a story that reminds us why this work is so important." The room fell silent, the air thick with anticipation. Maya glanced briefly at Tyler, then at the sea of faces before her. "This afternoon, I walked into a store on Fifth Avenue," she continued. "A store that prides itself on exclusivity and luxury. I was there to find an outfit for this very event. But instead of being treated as a valued customer, I was dismissed, judged, and humiliated." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, but Maya raised a hand, silencing them. "I tell you this not to dwell on my own experience, but to highlight a larger issue. Discrimination isn't always loud or obvious. Often it's subtle. It's a glance, a tone of voice, a policy applied selectively. And it happens everywhere, even in spaces that claim to be inclusive." Her words resonated deeply, and she saw nods of agreement from several audience members. "This is why my foundation is launching a new initiative," she announced, her voice rising with conviction. "We're creating a program that partners with businesses to provide training on unconscious bias, anti-discrimination practices, and cultural sensitivity. Because change doesn't happen by accident. It happens through education and accountability." The crowd erupted into applause, the sound echoing through the hall. Maya felt a surge of pride and relief, her earlier frustrations melting away in the warmth of their support. As she stepped off the stage, Tyler was there to greet her with a wide grin. "You crushed it," he said, wrapping her in a brief hug. Maya smiled, the tension in her chest finally easing. But as they made their way back to the table, she caught sight of Lisa lingering near the exit, her expression unreadable. Maya hesitated, then turned to Tyler. "I'll catch up with you in a minute." Tyler raised an eyebrow, but nodded, stepping aside as Maya approached Lisa. "You heard the speech," Maya said, her tone neutral. Lisa nodded, her eyes red-rimmed. "I did." Maya studied her for a moment. "Change is possible, Ms. Carter. But it takes work, real work. If you're serious about doing better, start there." Lisa opened her mouth to respond, but stopped, simply nodding instead. As Maya walked away, she felt a sense of closure settling over her. The day had been exhausting, but it wasn't wasted. If nothing else, it had sparked a conversation, one she hoped would lead to lasting change. The gala had ended on a high note, the buzz of Maya's speech carrying through the crowd even as guests began to filter out into the chilly Manhattan night. Maya stood near the entrance, exchanging pleasantries with the final stragglers while Tyler hovered nearby, his protective instincts still in full force. "You've been quiet," Tyler said, handing her a glass of sparkling water. "Just processing," Maya replied, taking a sip. Her voice was steady, but the weight of the day pressed heavily on her shoulders. Tyler leaned in slightly. "If you're thinking about Lisa, don't. You already did more for her than most people would." Maya gave him a small, tired smile. "It's not just about her. It's the bigger picture, Tyler. People like Lisa aren't the exception. They're the rule. How do you even begin to dismantle something so ingrained?" Tyler tilted his head, considering her words. "One piece at a time. You just did that tonight?" Maya wanted to believe him, but as she glanced around the now emptying venue, she spotted Lisa again, lingering near the exit. Unlike earlier, when she clung to the edges of the room, Lisa seemed frozen in place, her expression conflicted. "She's still here," Maya murmured, setting her glass down. "Want me to handle it?" Tyler asked, his tone gentle but firm. Maya shook her head. "No, I'll talk to her." Lisa straightened as Maya approached, her hands twisting nervously in front of her. The confident facade she'd worn at the store had crumbled entirely, replaced by vulnerability that Maya hadn't expected. "Ms. Davis," Lisa began, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's late," Maya said evenly. "What are you still doing here?" Lisa hesitated, glancing around as if searching for an escape route. I didn't want to leave without saying more. Maya crossed her arms, keeping her expression neutral. You already apologized. What else is there to say? Lisa flinched but held her ground. You're right, I did. But it doesn't feel like enough. I can't stop thinking about what I did, what I said. I don't even know why She trailed off, her words faltering under the weight of her guilt. Maya studied her carefully, the silence stretching between them. Finally, Lisa continued, her voice trembling. The truth is, I've spent most of my life trying to fit into spaces like Maison Étoile. Places that are cold, exclusive, and impossible to break into unless you play by their rules. And somewhere along the way, I became like them. That's not an excuse, Maya said softly but firmly. Lisa shook her head quickly. It's not. I know that. But today was a wake-up call. Seeing the way you carried yourself, even after I treated you like that, it made me realize how far I've fallen. Maya's eyes softened slightly, though her posture remained rigid. Falling isn't the problem, Miss Carter. Staying there is. Lisa nodded, her expression earnest. I want to change. I don't know where to start. For a moment, Maya considered walking away. After all, Lisa wasn't her responsibility. But something about the raw vulnerability in Lisa's voice struck a chord. If you're serious, Maya said, her tone measured, start by looking inward. Examine the biases you've carried with you and why you have them. It won't be comfortable, but change never is. Lisa blinked back tears, nodding again. Thank you for giving me a chance to do better. Maya held her gaze for a moment longer before nodding slightly. Good night, Miss Carter. The ride back to Maya's apartment was quiet, the city lights flickering past the car windows like tiny beacons. Tyler sat beside her, scrolling through his phone, but the silence between them was comfortable. What did she want? Tyler asked, finally breaking the stillness. To tell me she wants to change, Maya replied simply. And do you think she will? Maya leaned her head against the cool glass of the window, her reflection staring back at her. I don't know. I hope so. Tyler set his phone down, turning to face her fully. You're a better person than most, Maya. I probably would have just told her to get lost. She gave him a tired smile. You would have told her off in your own way, but you'd still give her a shot. You're not as tough as you think, Tyler. He chuckled, shaking his head. Don't let that get around. The next morning, Maya woke early, her mind already buzzing with plans for the foundation's next steps. As she sipped her coffee, her phone buzzed with notifications, emails, messages, and social media alerts. One message caught her attention. It was from an unfamiliar email address with the subject line, "Thank you." Curious, she opened it, finding a long message from Lisa. Maya, I hope this email isn't overstepping, but I wanted to say thank you again for what you said last night. I've been thinking about our conversation and about what you shared during your speech. I realize now that the problem isn't just the systems around me. It's also me. I'm starting to see how complicit I've been in maintaining those systems, and I want to do better. I don't expect forgiveness, but I promise you this. I'm going to put in the work, starting today. Thank you for giving me the push I needed. Lisa. Maya stared at the message for a long time, her emotions conflicted. On one hand, it was just an email, words on a screen. But on the other, it was a step, a small, tentative step in the right direction. She closed the email and set her phone aside, her thoughts turning to the larger picture. Lisa's journey wasn't hers to control, but she could focus on what she could change. Later that day, Maya met with her foundation's team, laying out plans for the initiative she'd announced at the gala. The atmosphere was electric, her staff energized by the boldness of the project. As they discussed outreach strategies and potential partners, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. The events of the past 24 hours had been draining, but they'd also solidified her resolve. She wasn't naive enough to believe that a single initiative or conversation could dismantle systemic bias. But she believed in momentum, in the power of one change sparking another. And maybe, just maybe, even someone like Lisa Carter could prove that change was possible. As the sun set over the city that evening, Maya stood on her balcony, watching the skyline glow. Her phone buzzed with another notification, this time a news article about her gala speech. The headline read, Maya Davis, Turning Prejudice into Progress. Maya smiled faintly, her resolve solidifying. This was just the beginning. The days following the gala were a whirlwind of activity. Maya's keynote speech had gone viral, sparking conversations across social media and news outlets. Her initiative to address bias in business spaces gained immediate traction, with companies reaching out to her foundation to partner on training programs. But as the public praise rolled in, Maya's focus remained on the work. Meetings filled her calendar, and her team worked tirelessly to turn the vision she'd shared at the gala into reality. Still, despite her busy schedule, Lisa Carter's email lingered in the back of her mind. Lisa wasn't the first person to offer an apology for discriminatory behavior, and Maya doubted she would be the last. But something about Lisa's words, about the way she seemed to wrestle with her complicity, stuck with Maya. Change wasn't guaranteed, but it was possible. And Lisa had taken the first step. A month later, Maya found herself back in Manhattan, this time for a panel discussion hosted by a major fashion house. The event was part of a new campaign highlighting diversity in luxury retail, a direct response to the conversation sparked by Maya's viral speech. As she stepped into the sleek conference room, she noticed a familiar face among the event staff. Lisa Carter stood near the registration table, handing out badges and directing guests. She looked different, her posture more relaxed, her expression softer. Maya caught Lisa's eye, and the woman froze for a moment before offering a tentative smile. Maya returned it with a small nod, then turned her attention to the event. The panel discussion was a success, with Maya sharing insights alongside other leaders in social justice and business. The room buzzed with energy, attendees scribbling notes and asking thoughtful questions. As the event wrapped up and guests began to leave, Lisa approached Maya hesitantly, her hands clasped in front of her. Ms. Davis, Lisa began, her voice steady but humble. I didn't expect to see you here. Likewise, Maya replied, tilting her head slightly. What brings you to this event? Lisa gestured toward the staff table. I'm volunteering. After everything, I started looking for ways to get involved in these conversations. This organization was one of the first places I reached out to. Maya raised an eyebrow, surprised but impressed. That's a good start. Lisa nodded, her gaze earnest. I've been doing the work you talked about, reading, listening, questioning my own biases. It's not easy, and I've made mistakes, but I'm committed to changing. Maya regarded her carefully, then offered a faint smile. Change isn't easy, but it's worth it. Lisa hesitated, then added, I also wanted to thank you again for not dismissing me outright when you had every right to. Maya's smile widened slightly. Accountability doesn't mean shutting people out, Lisa. It means holding them to a higher standard and giving them the opportunity to rise to it. Lisa's shoulders relaxed, and she nodded. Thank you. I'll keep working on it. That evening, back at her hotel, Maya reflected on the day. The encounter with Lisa had been unexpected, but it left her feeling hopeful. Change was slow, often frustratingly so, but moments like this reminded her why the fight mattered. She stepped out onto the hotel balcony, the city lights twinkling below. Her phone buzzed with a notification. An article about the event had already been published. Maya skimmed through it, pausing at a quote from one of the attendees. Maya Davis reminds us that progress isn't just about policy, it's about people. Her work challenges us to be better, not just for ourselves, but for each other. Maya set the phone down and let the words sink in. She thought of the countless Lises in the world, people stuck in cycles of prejudice, often unaware of the harm they caused until it was pointed out. Not everyone would change, but some would. And for Maya, that was enough. Weeks later, the Maison Etoile incident resurfaced in an unexpected way. The store announced a partnership with Maya's foundation, pledging to implement anti-bias training for its staff and donate a portion of its profits to initiatives supporting marginalized communities. The announcement sparked mixed reactions. Some praised the move as a step forward, while others dismissed it as performative. Maya, however, focused on the potential impact. The first training session was held at the store's flagship location, with Maya herself addressing the employees. She spoke candidly about her experience. using it as a teaching moment rather than a point of contention. Among the attendees was Lisa Carter, who had returned to the store, not as a sales associate, but as a newly appointed diversity and inclusion coordinator. During the session, Lisa stood up to share her story, admitting her past mistakes and pledging to use her role to ensure no one else experienced what Maya had. Maya watched her speak, a mix of pride and cautious optimism blooming within her. Months later, Maya unveiled her latest art exhibit, titled Faces of Change. The collection featured sculptures and paintings inspired by stories of transformation, of people who had confronted their biases and chosen a different path. One piece stood out, a sculpture of two hands, one extended in apology and the other reaching back in forgiveness. The plaque beneath it read, "Change begins with acknowledgement, grows with accountability, and flourishes with empathy." At the exhibit's opening, Maya spotted Lisa among the crowd, quietly admiring the artwork. She didn't approach Maya, instead choosing to remain in the background. But her presence was enough. As Maya mingled with guests, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey wasn't over. Not for her, not for Lisa, not for the world, but it was moving forward. And for Maya, that was all that mattered.